In 2017, Forbes added up everything Sofia Vergara earned in a single year. The number came to $41.5 million. Before taxes, the 6th year running, she was the highest-paid actress in television history. But in her peak year, Time reported she earned $43 million, the most any television actor had ever made in a single year. And then Forbes noticed something strange. The hit show that made her famous, Modern Family, accounted for only about a quarter of that money. So where did the rest come from? Her own business manager gave the answer to Forbes, and it sounds less like Hollywood and more like a factory. He called their endorsement department a well-oiled machine. The woman America thought was a sitcom star was running an operation, and almost nobody was watching it. So today, we are going to take that machine apart, piece by piece, and show you how a dental school dropout from Barranquilla built an empire by selling the one thing nobody else valued: herself. To understand the triumph, we have to start with the humiliation, because there was plenty of it. Sofia Vergara was born in Barranquilla, Colombia, in 1972, the daughter of a cattle rancher, raised Catholic, nicknamed Toti. She studied dentistry at university for 3 years and walked away 2 semesters short of the degree. She was discovered on a beach in Santa Marta, married her high school sweetheart at 18, had her son Manolo at 19, and was divorced and raising him alone by her early 20s. She started working for Univision, building her presence in the Hispanic market before Hollywood ever noticed. Then the real darkness arrived. In 1998, her older brother Rafael was murdered in Colombia during a kidnapping attempt, and the family fled the violence for Miami. 2 years after that, at 28, a doctor found a lump in her neck during a routine checkup. It was thyroid cancer. She had surgery, radioactive iodine therapy, and she told almost no one. She kept that diagnosis secret for 11 years because, in her words, having cancer is not fun and she did not want the publicity. Hold on to that detail. It matters later in a way you will not expect. And when Hollywood finally opened the door, it did not open it for the person she actually was. Sofia Vergara is a natural blonde. Producers repeatedly told her to dye her hair dark, to look more stereotypically Hispanic, to fit the box they had already built for her. She was the accent, the curves, the punchline. The industry looked at her and saw a type. What they could not see was that she had already spent years learning how to sell, and she was about to turn their underestimation into the most valuable asset she owned. That brings us to the first chapter of how the machine got built. Phase 1. The product was always her. Long before Modern Family, long before America knew her face, a young Sofia Vergara needed money, and the only thing she had to sell was herself. So she made a calendar, a $12.95 photo calendar, sold to her fans across the Latin market. And it did not just sell. It sold nearly 1 million copies. She later described the moment plainly. The only thing she could sell was really herself, and she started to realize, she said, that she was the product. Her business partner remembered when the checks started coming in, money that did not come from a network or a studio, but directly from her audience. Before that calendar, he said, the two of them were broke and did not have a penny. After it, they had a business. Sit with how far ahead of her time that was. She was monetizing a direct relationship with her fans, selling herself straight to them, a full decade before the word influencer existed. The empire did not start with fame. The empire is what created the fame. But selling a calendar is a hustle. Building wealth requires something a hustle does not have. It requires that you own the machine, which is exactly what she did next. Phase 2. In 1994, Sofia Vergara co-founded a company called Latin World Entertainment with her manager Luis Balaguer. On paper, it was a talent management and licensing firm for the Hispanic market. In reality, it was the holding company for everything she was about to become. By 2011, Forbes estimated it pulled around $27 million in revenue, and one business magazine later called it the real engine of her success, a roughly $35 million company. Here is the part that changes everything. She was not the client of that agency. She was a co-owner of it. When most actors sign with a management company, they pay that company a cut of their earnings. Sofia Vergara built the company that took the cut. So every brand deal, every endorsement, every licensing arrangement she ever signed did not just pay her as the face. It paid the firm she owned. She was standing on both sides of her own deals. And once you own both sides, the only question left is how you structure the deals themselves. This is the part no one talks about, and it is the heart of the entire operation. Phase 3. The structure. Most celebrity endorsements work in the dullest way possible. A brand pays a flat fee, the celebrity smiles in the ad. Everyone goes home. Sofia Vergara almost never did that. Forbes laid out her actual model, and it is the difference between getting paid and getting rich. She did not just take a flat royalty fee for lending her name. She also took a percentage of the revenue after the product crossed a minimum number of sales. Like George Foreman with his grill, Vergara negotiated royalties instead of flat fees, reportedly securing rates on the higher end of the industry standard, 3 to 10% of wholesale revenue. Read that again, because it is the whole game. A flat fee pays you the same whether the product flops or explodes. Her structure meant that when a product became a hit, her income scaled with it, automatically, with no extra work. She had turned her name into equity, and she repeated this template across nearly 24 brands. Pepsi, CoverGirl, Head & Shoulders, Rooms to Go, Kmart, State Farm, Synthroid. And yes, that Synthroid. The thyroid medication. The illness she hid for 11 years out of fear of the publicity, she eventually turned into a paid endorsement. The thing that almost took her life became another line on the balance sheet. If you are starting to see how deep this goes, do us a favor and hit subscribe, because this channel exists to take these money systems apart, the ones hiding behind famous faces, every single week. Now let us look at what happens when this structure meets a genuine HIT, because the numbers stop sounding like endorsements and start sounding like ownership. Phase 4. The scale. In 2015, Sofia Vergara partnered with the kitchen brand Ninja on a line of coffee makers. She was not just the face. She was brought into product development as a co-creator. And because her deal carried that revenue percentage on top of the royalty, the size of the win was tied directly to how well the product sold. Forbes reported the partnership generated a cool $197 million in revenue. That is the model working exactly as designed. But the coffee deal was a licensing arrangement. What she did next was buy the buildings outright. She co-founded a shapewear and underwear brand called EBY with partner Renata Black, which stands for Empowered by You, a subscription company that gives 10% of its net sales to the 7 Bar Foundation funding microloans for women. And notice the positioning, because it is the whole story in one sentence. The press described EBI as repositioning underwear as a tool for empowerment rather than seduction. The woman who spent a decade being sold as a sex symbol built a brand explicitly built on not being one. Then came a sun care company called Toti, structured as a joint venture with a Spanish skincare lab and run by an executive team of Latina women, a size-inclusive denim line with Walmart, a Colombian coffee brand called Dios Mío. In deal after deal, the pattern is identical. She is not the spokesperson. She is the owner. So step back and look at what this machine produced. Forbes named Sofia Vergara the highest-paid actress on television for at least 7 straight years, beginning in 2012. The Colombian immigrant they told to dye her hair was out, earning every leading man on the dial. And because she built her wealth on ownership instead of a paycheck, it held. When she divorced Joe Manganiello in 2023, the settlement included no spousal support in either direction. An ironclad prenup let her keep everything she earned before, during, and after the marriage. The fortune did not depend on a show, a network, or a husband. It was bolted to companies she controlled. So here is what the tabloids never understood about Sofia Vergara. They kept covering the accent, the dresses, the one-liners, the glamour. They were watching the advertisement. The business was running the entire time, just underneath it. Every single thing the industry held against her, she found a way to sell. The accent that supposedly limited her became a brand voice worth millions. The body they reduced to a stereotype became the foundation of a company about empowerment instead. The illness she hid in fear became an endorsement. Even the underestimation itself, the assumption that she was just a pretty face who got lucky, was the disguise that let her build an empire while everyone looked the other way. She told an interviewer once that her dream was to become the Martha Stewart of the Latin market. Following the playbook of Kathy Ireland, who built a $2 billion licensing empire, look at the machine she built. It is hard to argue she fell short. She was never the product they thought they were buying. She was the one who owned the factory. If you want to see how other famous names quietly built fortunes the public never noticed, check out our other breakdowns. We will see you in the next one.